this is why it's important that you all know the history of what was before, and that the whole community know, because people forget things, and when it looks so entirely different from what it was before, then if people just enter at a certain point, that's all that they think it ever was. They need to know we were here, and it was good.
To me, Yesler Terrace holds like a special place in my heart. It may not be the richest neighborhood, but it's rich in like diversity, culture, and like connections. And others like that never lived here or been here might perceive Yesler as like a poor ghetto neighborhood.
People are definitely what make Yesler Terrace Yesler Terrace. It was a very inviting environment. I always felt safe and just like I could be myself and have someone there all the time. I got to grow up with a lot of people, go to school with them, just like also live next to them. It was fun because I always had a friend around.
I lived in Yesler Terrace for about like around 15 years. At first I lived down there, then I moved to that house, and then now I'm there. And I would show you, but there's nothing to show because there's construction going on.
This year, in 2016, we started leasing a building called Raven Terrace, which had also some family units, but actually was more of the smaller 1 and 2 bedroom units that a lot of folks moved directly on site over to that building as well.
There aren't really a lot of kids my age in that building. It's more older people, people with younger kids, and I feel like they're always staring at me and looking at me a certain way. And everyone's always in their houses. It's never like, oh, we're at our front porch, because there's not really a front porch, or oh, we're in our backyard and it's so open, green. No, it's cement.
We built provided 3 new buildings actually. And so one of them is across the street, across Bourne. It's called Cabero Court. That's kind of the first big building that we built from the ground up. Many of the residents who used to live in the old part of Yesler Terrace moved right into new apartments there at that building. And it's a great building with a big playground in the middle that has become a real of central hub for a lot of the kids. Love that place a lot, and it gets a lot of great use.
Like, this is like a family here, and like I feel like in other neighborhoods it's just like, oh, that's my neighbor and like we live together, but like I don't really talk to you and like you're not really my friend. But like I feel like in Yesler, I know my neighbor and like I help them out, and I know some of their story. Like maybe it's not how it used to be, but I still feel like we have like a better kinship and family community than the rest of Seattle. So
having the redevelopment, it kind of shows us that change and new people coming in, or richer white people coming in. It's just like, well, that change kind of changes how we feel towards ourselves, or like how do we express, or how do we interact with people that are different and don't understand where we have come from, coming to a newer place and not knowing what was there before it. So, yeah.
I think art can play an important role at Yesler Terrace during this transition, because art provides a new way of thinking about and understanding new experiences.
Hey, my name is Queen. I'm 15 years old, and I was born and raised in the CD. I grew up on 17th and Yesler near Langston Hughes, the theater, and my whole childhood kind of revolved around the Boys and Girls Club up on 19th. In my neighborhood, it was fun. Like, the kids would play with each other and get along well. People were like family there. In about 2014, they started like tearing homes down in my neighborhood. Like there was this car shop. It was like well known on my block, and I know my dad used to go there to get his car fixed. It was like right across the street too, but they tore that down and built houses on that area.
My name is Angel. I grew up on Union Street in the Central District. Growing up around the Central District, I was mainly outside most of the time. I would mainly go to TT Minor up the street from my house and play basketball with my friends. And now it's not really the same because I don't even go outside anymore. First, the park is actually getting torn down and it's going to be renewed into a new building. I mainly just see adults outside only because of the bar across the street from my house. It used to be more kids outside playing in the street. There used to be block parties for everyone to come to, but now we don't even have them anymore.
This is like the heart and soul for me of, Seattle when you think about the Black community and African descent community. For over 130 years, it's been the heart, the epicenter, not only of just Seattle, but really of the Pacific Northwest. William Gross bought 12 acres of land from Henry Yesler in 1882, and that's what established the Central District as a settling place for Black people. And then there was, housing covenants and restrictions, laws and policies that prevented Black people from living and buying homes in other places. And so that also forged this community, and it became a very rich and progressive Black community. And I think it's one of the hidden jewels of the Black experience in America, the Central District, Africatown, right here in Seattle, Washington.
This problem that we've seen of economic and racial gentrification, it is a problem that has swept throughout Seattle, and it is most starkly visible in the Central District, which was a historically Black district, and now we're seeing both the African American and the African immigrant and the Latino population being driven out of that because of essentially what I would call economic eviction.
If a development's going to happen here, and even if it wasn't Vulcan, that property was going to be sold, right? So it could have been, really anyone else could have developed it. But now that we're responsible for the development here, how can we make this opportunity also an opportunity for the community? And so there is a lot of benefit in that wouldn't be there otherwise. And so I think from another perspective, it was, if this was going to be redeveloped anyways, I think the community being able to get what they want out of it and have an opportunity to shape it, and we're inviting that opportunity, and to get something positive out of it, I think that is a start of something opposite, because we do see opportunities for businesses to thrive in there, local minority businesses to thrive.
I have been in this organization for the last 12 years, but I have been working actually for the last 15 years. We have been addressing issues that affect immigrant communities and minorities. As we go through, it just came, as you can see, I think mainly the Seattle area is developing, it's growing. You cannot stop, the city, future. It has to, replace especially old buildings. Corporations are taking over, but in the meantime, small businesses are disappearing. So it's affecting us. It's going to be a problem for us because we have to find a place. This is our home. This is our place that we developed, for the last 12 years, Now we have to start another place, and it's going to be a problem, but that's, you cannot stop it. So
we want development, but we don't want displacement. We want the central area to be built up. We're talking about Black businesses, people of color businesses. We see the race discrimination in where money is provided and who gets left in the dark with nothing at all. So here, again, in a historically Black neighborhood, when it came to our business owners, we had to fight like crazy in order just to get a crumb of what white business owners down on the waterfront were able to receive.
I've had my business up there on 23rd and Jackson at Frank's #1 for 9 years. And I just moved down here. I opened this up 6 months ago. I had started early, and I put in applications for 4 other different sites, but God opened up this door here. Change is, great. And it's, in one hand, it's a lot of people that have been there all their lives have to uproot and go other places. Then again, it's a new generation coming in, new ideas, new visions. So you have to change with it.
I understand that change happens, but I think there's a way that change can happen, and it can be less destructive. And people, especially who have lived there, and especially for people who look like us, where they can benefit from the changes. The fact of the matter is, there are systems in place, and it's still true today, where white people benefit from the misfortunes of others. And I think the Central District is an example of that.
I've been in this business over 14 and a half years. I opened in 2002. When I opened it, like me and my wife, when we planned to do this one, I thought it's going to be for a long time. We spent a lot of money to expand the restaurant, over a couple $100,000, I show the Vulcan also, the Paul Allen Group, who purchased this property. And then I thought when I invested, it was for a long term. For me, development is not good, redevelopment this area. For me, it's a big loss,
We want to help these businesses continue to thrive with as minimum interruption as possible. We hired a new person who's actually going to help work with the businesses there and to say, hey, you know what? We understand you are busy running a business, and even though you have a year to plan for where you could move, and we understand that you want to move somewhere within the neighborhood, we're going to help you identify options, other locations, and there may be 4, 5, or 6 options. You may not like 3 of them or 4, but let's start looking, let's start talking about that, and then let's start planning.
We hear Black Lives Matters, but Black communities matter, Black businesses matter, Black arts matter, Black youth definitely matter as our future. And anything that exists needs a space to exist, and it needs an environment that's conducive to it to grow and develop. Africatown is about maintaining and developing a place where the beauty, the brilliance, and the best of the Black experience in the Africa diaspora can grow and be shared for all benefit.
We need sweeping reforms in this city. So I would say, first of all, we need a citywide rent control policy. Research from everywhere, despite the myths that we often hear, shows that rent control, which is a policy that would keep rent increases in check such that working families can live in the city, will be tremendously effective in controlling the skyrocketing rent. What we need is a real grassroots mass movement of the kind that we had with $15 an hour to fight for housing justice, and that is exactly why right now we are starting to win tenants' rights, and we want Seattle to be a city with a full-fledged tenants' bill of rights. The housing market is not controlled by individual small property owners or individual tenants. The housing market is vastly controlled by big developers, by big landowners. I mean corporate landowners, landowners who own massive amounts of properties, acres and acres. It's also controlled by Wall Street speculators, meaning banks and billionaires control the land. Do we want in 10 years' time for Seattle to be a city where only the extremely wealthy and mostly white people can live? If you want that kind of vision, then we're going the right way.
We are Yesler Terrace.
We are Yesler.
We are the Central District.
We are the Central District.
We are a community.
We are a community.
We are a community.
We are a community.
Our voices will be heard.